Salutations, crustaceans! I'm Lobster, and today we are going to be reviewing the Ibanez BTB745. Let's do this. This is the Ibanez BTB745, the entry-level BTB model for that whole range. The Ibanez BTB is a very interesting instrument, as it almost is looking to appeal to the other crowd not looking at Soundgears. Soundgear basses, even for their 5 and 6 string models, are 34-inch scale and generally have a tighter string spacing for the 5 and 6 string models. The BTB, on the other hand, is looking to appeal to the crowd who likes 35-inch scale necks, wider string spacing, and the same Ibanez level electronics that you expect from other Ibanez basses. I don't know. And that's what we get here with the BTB745. The wings of this neck-through bass have a ash and walnut top with an Akoma core, and the neck is a 5-piece maple and walnut neck with graphite reinforcement. We have a 35-inch scale, 24 stainless steel frets, and a 47mm nut, though I measured it and it's actually closer to 46mm from my measurements here. The specs continue to be very similar to the MTD, with the 19mm string spacing down at the bridge, though these are the Ibanez individual saddle unit things, and you do have some flexibility in regards to the spacing, but the default is 19mm here. Moving up to the headstock, we have the Ibanez BTB normal style headstock. This is kind of how they've always been, and it's okay, I guess, in regards to styling, but it is fully functional, and the Ibanez tuners that we have here work very well. I've had no issues with tuning stability. Moving down from the neck to the body, specifically the electronics, we have the Bartolini BH2 humbucking soap bars here. I am personally not a fan of these pickups, as they kind of sound a bit bland and muffled, especially combined with the Ibanez 3-band preamp that we have here. Now, this is kind of a stripped down version of the Ibanez preamp versus something that we see in the Soundgears and the EHB. We have a 3-way toggle switch for a mid-frequency control, just like some of the Soundgears. However, there is no preamp bypass and no passive tone control when you have a preamp bypass, so you're kind of missing out on those features here versus something like a Soundgear. I'm not sure off the top of my head if the higher-end BTB models have that, but that is something to note. But enough about the electronics, let's go ahead and flip this bass around. Around back, we can see the Akoma body wings that are painted a black, and it is an interesting finish because you can kind of see the grain of the wood through it. It looks pretty cool. And then we have our 5-piece maple and walnut neck. Neck through construction running all the way up there. I think it looks very nice. And then moving up to the headstock is angled back for appropriate string tension on the nut. Everything looks good back here. We have a medium-sized control cavity as well as a single battery door for the 9-volt preamp. And how much does the Ibanez BTB745 weigh? This particular example comes in at 9.5 pounds, which in my opinion is pretty well weighted for a neck-through multi-wood large-scale bass like this, so not too shabby overall. However, in regards to the weight and the body and everything, there is one big design flaw that I'm going to talk about when we play this bass, and it is something that in my opinion is a big deal breaker depending on how you play the instrument. But before we do all that, how much does the Ibanez BTB745 cost? These basses come in at $949, and I don't believe they come with a case. At least mine didn't. I purchased this bass through the channel, through a random retailer online. I did not get this bass from Ibanez. This isn't like a review unit or anything. This is one that, we purchased ourselves through LowEndLobster. And yeah, we're gonna see how it is. Let's get to the playing. You all know what you need to do. Go ahead and hit that like button so my hand will turn back to normal. Thanks. not bad, not bad at all. The playability on this neck is great. I think these necks are just super comfortable, especially for those who like a, I guess, wider nut width, similar style to like the MTD, things like a Lakeland. This 46 millimeter nut width that I measured out is equipped also with a 0 fret. I forgot to mention that earlier, which is something that you usually don't see on the Soundgears and other instruments, so a nice touch there. The MTD has the 0 fret as well. Interesting comparison that there's just a lot of similarities there. However, this is a neck-through bass, that's a bolt-on. Now on to the big design flaw, which in my opinion is a deal breaker as someone who likes to play their bass higher and have their forearm resting right here. We just have a really hard edge. This is just a hard corner. And when I was at NAMM, we saw some other BTB models, like the new multi-scale, and all of them suffer from that. Just this hard edge right here. Even playing right now, resting my forearm is extremely uncomfortable. I've noticed on some of the forums like TalkBass, people have actually sanded this down a bit to make it more playable. But out of the box, this is a big design flaw, and in my opinion, a big deal breaker as someone who plays fingerstyle and slap in these positions. And having my forearm rest upon that is not comfortable. On to the rest of the bass now. I think that these pickups, again, sound kind of bland and muffled, especially compared to something like the Aguilars, as well as the Nordstrands that we see on higher-end BTB and Soundgear models. I've noticed that Ibanez has been including the Nordstrands, the court-built Nordstrands, the CND, the Kerry Nordstrand design pickups, in lower-end Soundgears, and I'd love to see that in the BTB as well, as these BH2s, in my opinion, don't really cut it. So everything you've heard thus far is with the preamp centered as well as the blend control centered. Let's take a look at these pickups individually and mess with the preamp a bit. We're going to start out with the neck pickup. Preamp centered. Here's what that sounds like. Pretty good sound with this Bartolini BH2 neck pickup. However, let me show you what happens when we just boost the treble all the way. I think these sound great once you crank the treble. However, I think this is kind of what it should sound like centered. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and center the treble control because we are going to mess with this mid frequency. Let's cut the mids first and then we'll do a mid boost. Let's start by cutting the mids and we are going to have our frequency control set to 250 and then we'll do 450 and 700. We have the mids cut with the switch at 250 and the bass and treble are at center. Not bad. I think we can actually boost the treble and boost the bass just a little bit. Next, we're going to flick the switch over to a 450 Hz mid-cut. And finally, the 700 Hz mid-cut, meaning we're kind of cutting the higher end of the mid-spectrum for this preamp and leaving the lower mids. Very cool that we have the 3 different mid-frequency selections here. Let's go back to the 250 Hz selection and bring our treble and our bass to center, and we are going to boost our mids about 50% now. Next, we are going to have the preamp set to 450 Hz. Very cool. Finally, 700 Hz mid boost. Not bad, not bad. I think that sounds nice and growly with the 700 Hz mid boost. Let's sprinkle on a little bit of treble too. I'm going to boost treble to about 50%. Okay, enough with the neck pickup. I'm going to go back to that when we play with a pick, but now let's move over to our bridge pickup. Here is that with the preamp centered. Oh, not a bad tone out of the bridge pickup too. Now let's start messing with the preamp. I'm going to cut the mids and we're going to boost the bass and the treble just a little bit and set our mid frequency switch to 250 Hz. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways. And let's bring the mid switch over to 450 now. And here's 700. Now let's go ahead and bring the treble and the bass back to center and boost our mids about 50%. Flick the switch over to 250 and do it all again. pickup there a little bit. In fact, we'll just do that right now. Let's try that one more time. And let's bring the switch over to 450. And here's 700. Now let's go ahead and center the preamp once more and have both pickups together. Here's that with the preamp centered. Now let's go ahead and do our treble and our bass boost. Cut the mids, flick the switch over to 250. Here's what that sounds like. Not bad. I think that cutting those low mids there really brings out the character of these pickups, and you can kind of hear things with a bit more clarity. Let's flick that switch over to 450 hertz. And here's 700. Now let's bring our treble and our bass back to center and boost our mids about 50%. Let's start at 250. Next, let's move over to 450. And finally, here's 700 hertz. Next, we're going to grab our trusty pick and center our preamp. Here's both pickups together, preamp centered with a pick. And here's the neck pickup, preamp centered with a pick. gonna go ahead and put that away. While we're on the neck pickup, let's go ahead and give her a quick slap. Let's bring the blend back to center. Not too bad, not too bad. Now let's go ahead and throw some drums behind this bass. So here are my final thoughts on the Ibanez BTB745, and a lot of these apply to the higher end BTBs as well. The only thing that won't is really my electronics critique. But in regards to the design flaws, I believe this is carried out throughout the entire BTB range, and I think it's something that needs to change. Two things. The first and the most detrimental is this really hard and sharp edge right here that can hurt your forearm if you're the type of player that plays like I do with your bass in the higher position and your forearm rests right on this edge. I really wish they would smooth these out, as the Soundgear doesn't have these issues. The Soundgear is a very smooth design, and I don't believe earlier BTBs had this issue either, like the original, late 90s, early 2000s BTBs. I may be wrong there. I have yet to actually have one on the channel, though I have played some way in the past, but this edge is definitely a big deal breaker for me. On top of that, I am not a fan of the locking jack. The benefits of the locking jack are, hey, your cable won't accidentally unplug. But in situations where something yanks hard at your cable, your bass is gonna go down, and I'd rather have my bass get unplugged than fall to the ground. Then again, I know strap blocks, but if you get to the point where you're falling over, I'd rather just the cable get unplugged and we can plug it back in. Those are my personal opinions though. The last thing of this bass that I really think they should improve on is the pickups. These Bartolini BH2s, as well as the MK1s that preceded them, are, in my opinion, just not great anymore, especially compared to other budget offerings within Ibanez's own lineup. I think that tonally, the Soundgear SR605E that we reviewed recently, or maybe that was earlier this year, I don't remember, but the Soundgear 605 that has the CND big split pickups sound stellar, and that was a great bass that just suffered from some QC issues. No QC issues here on this BTB. I think that this is a stellar instrument, but this hard edge, the locking jack, and the pickups are kind of meh points for me. There are a lot of positives for the BTB though, and that is the construction, which is stellar. You have 24 stainless steel frets, you have the 19mm spacing, superb comfortable neck. This is a killer neck. Very good upper fret access as well, so there are a lot of pluses to this bass. Plus it's well weighted, it's well balanced, and it's well built. So what am I going to rate the Ibanez BTB745? I'm going to rate this bass 3 claws out of 5. Excellent construction and great materials. You have the stainless steel frets, 35-inch scale, 19mm spacing. You have a lot of positives here. However, in my opinion, the pickups, as well as the hard edge here and the locking jack, kind of detract from the playing experience overall, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts on the Ibanez BTB745 down in the comments below. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like, subscribe, join our Discord channel, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Ibanez BTB745. Big tub of bass. That's what BTB stands for. And as always, until we groove again,